I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's probably my favorite piece of animated fiction, but while it's one of my favorite magic systems, it's kind of hard to play it in TTRPGs. Yes, there is Avatar Legends, and it's not a bad game, but it is a narrative-focused game, which, as much as I love, I like Powered by the Apocalypse as much as anybody. Kids with Brooms was really fun to watch in Dimension 20, but I want to try something with a little bit more actual rules for each individual thing, more involved than just, sure, narratively that should happen. And we all have our own opinions about the 4 Elements Monks in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Even though the 2024 rules make it a little bit better, it's not good. And then there's Pathfinder. Pathfinder 1st edition did have a Kineticist, but this is a 2E channel, so I'm going to be talking about the second Kineticist. The Kineticist in Pathfinder 2nd edition can bend the elements just as easily as any bender, but with a few key differences that will have to come up while I'm talking about our builds today. And speaking of our builds, I'm going to be building every member of the original Team Avatar, that is Sokka, Katara, Aang, Toph, and Zuko. You're going to be learning about the rules of the Kineticist, and you're also going to be learning about a few other rules with another class that I really do like a lot. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into our builds, and let's start with the first member to join, as far as chronology I think goes, Sokka. The order you make a character in is ancestry, background, class. Every team member is human, so we won't have to worry about that. Let's start with a background for Sokka. Before going on his adventure, he was already working to become a warrior. The best background in this case is conscript. As for class, you might think to make him a fighter, but I think commander is a little bit better for him. He's like the tactician of the team. So let's go do a quick rundown of what the commander actually does before we really get into the nitty-gritty of Sokka himself. Commanders get an ability called tactics that are kept in a folio, kind of like a wizard keeping his spells in a spellbook. The biggest difference is that tactics are actions the commander can take to let the rest of his team members do something on his turn. There's one where the commander can give everyone a melee weapon strike, or one where everyone can reload and shoot at a target if need be. Unfortunately, since bending the elements isn't a melee weapon strike, it's not a ranged weapon, or it's not a spell, those kinds of tactics won't really work for Sokka, but we'll just focus on mobility for him. When you're a commander, you have a banner that you wave, and everybody gets bonuses when they're in 30 feet. Sokka doesn't have a banner that he brandishes, so he can't wave it around or use any actions that have the brandish trait. So I'm going to go ahead and reflavor it so that the emblem that is on his armor or the colors that represent his tribe are going to be the banner for the team. Alright, so what kind of commander is Sokka? As previously mentioned, Sokka's banner will be worn and therefore can't be waved, so he can't use any brandish tactics. But commanders start with 5, and so Sokkas are going to be the ones that allow movement, like mountaineering training to give everybody a climb speed, or aquatics training to give everybody a swim speed, or pincer attacks so that they can flank an enemy from melee range. Sokka's main job is going to be moving around the battlefield, trying to get out of the area of effect of certain enemies' tactics, and moving all of his teammates into more advantageous positions. Kineticists are kind of famously action heavy, so with a commander actually being your movement is a really huge boon. Next up is Katara, but before I get into the benders, I want to do a little short pass on how kineticists work. Kineticists are the World of Galarian's version of benders. These are people that have one or more gates to an elemental plane in their bodies that lets them control one of the 6 elements of Galarian: air, earth, fire, metal, water, and wood. Kineticists start with 2 extremely important moves: Channel Elements and Elemental Blast. Channel Elements is an action that bends a particular character's element around them and gives them access to their offensive abilities. And when you do that, you can also Elemental Blast at the same time. And that is the basic move that sends your element toward an enemy with force. Different elements have different access to different damage types, like air is really good at slashing damage and fire is obviously good at fire damage. Then there are impulses. These are specific moves that aren't just you swinging your element at them. They have specific effects. Some can mess with an enemy's movement, some can do an area of effect damage rather than hitting one enemy, and some can give you more defense. Then of course at level 1, when you're choosing your element, in Pathfinder you can actually choose up to 2 elements at level 1. Being that this campaign or this build is set in the world of Avatar, everybody's going to be a single gate kineticist except for, of course, Aang, who is the Avatar, and Toph when we get to her. She's a special case. And one last thing before we start building the benders, every bender is going to have the feat Extended Kinesis. This lets each bender do things that they often do in the show, like water benders turning their water into ice, and earth benders sculpting specific items and things like that. Alright, now with that housekeeping out of the way, let's get into building Katara. Katara is the team healer and waterbender, so we'll try to focus on those 2 aspects, waterbending and healing. Firstly, I've decided that Tide Watcher is going to be her background. Choosing single gate of water, she gets 2 impulses. First, we're going to choose Tidal Hands, which we're going to use as her water whip, and then we're going to use Winter's Clutch for AoE cold damage. Ocean's Balm is available at level 1, so keep an eye on that so as you level up, you get that ability too. Katara's build is fairly simple. You build a water kineticist. But let's go up to the next one who's a little bit more complicated in Aang. He is raised in the Northern Air Temple, so we're going to go ahead and choose his background to be Acolyte. And being that he's the Avatar, he's capable of bending all 4 elements, but in the show he starts out as a single gate air kineticist. There is a way you can get multiple bending types faster, but I'll talk about that later. And so Aang's first 2 impulses will be Air Cushion and 4 Winds. Air Cushion lets him catch someone or himself from falling a high height, and 4 Winds gives everybody a little bit more speed and mobility using the power of wind. There is the tiny matter of Aang's ability to fly though. In the show he does use a glider to fly around as early as episode 1, but in Pathfinder they're really stingy with the ability to fly. You usually don't get that until level 9. However, there is a glider in the game. If your GM is gracious and allows you to, maybe you can channel your elements and move the glider yourself. But there's a reason why Pathfinder is kind of stingy with flight. It can get pretty powerful, so all GM fiat. So how do you bend the other elements? At level 5 and then every 4th level after that, you can go deeper into one gate like other benders will, or open up a second gate. That's Aang's plan. Going through the cycle, at level 5 he'll take water bending, at level 9 he'll take earth bending, and finally at level 13 he'll take fire bending. Of course, you can start him out as a dual gate kineticist with air and water if you want to get into multiple bending a little bit faster, start out as season 2 sort of thing. The one thing in the Aang build that I can't really put in here is Avatar State. I don't really have a way for the Kineticist to get the Avatar State or a boost of that nature. Monks can get that later on, but there's a chance you can get that, but I'll talk about that toward the end here. Until then, let's continue with the next bender, Toph Beifong. Hey, thanks for watching the build so far. I really hope you're enjoying it, but if you're liking the video, go ahead and hit the like button or just tell somebody about the channel. A couple of years ago, I made some builds for some other video game characters, Mario, Sonic, Kimberly, and Link. Go back and watch some of those if you want to. They're more in-depth than the videos that I'm gonna be making nowadays. I'm probably just gonna get you guys started, some example builds like they do in the sidebars of the book sometimes. Tell your friends, let's get back to the builds. Toph is the greatest earthbender of all time. This isn't up for debate, this is non-negotiable, she just is. So for Toph, we need to go hard into that for her build. First we'll choose her background, which is Noble. She's been secretly training her earthbending skills to an extreme degree in a style that's all about controlling the battlefield and negating physical attacks. While she didn't invent metal bending until late in the show, she wasn't introduced until a quarter through book 2, and I'm building Zuko next to doesn't even join the team until book 3, so whatever. We're giving Toph metal bending at level 1. And to that end, Toph is a dual gate kineticist. Choose earth and metal. I think the best choice for the first 2 impulses for Toph are Tremor, which is good AoE damage and good field control, and Metal Carapace, so Toph can cover herself in metal armor and raise her AC. Another thing you're going to have to ask your GM for is Toph's blindness. There is a sense in the game called Tremor Sense, which can pretty much see anything within a certain range up to your GM, usually around 60 feet like Dark Vision. Normal sight is unlimited, so you'd have to limit this somehow, but again, that'd be up to your GM. And the final member of the original team avatar is Prince Zuko. He's the damage dealer of the group. While he's absolutely an accomplished firebender, he's also great at fighting with dual broadswords, which is going to be our main goal for the build. As Prince of the Fire Nation, Zuko's background is royal. Choose fire as his gate, and my personal favorite impulses for him are Burning Jet for a boost of movement and Scorching Column to fill an area with a massive column of fire. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until level 2 to get him proficient with his broadswords. At level 2, take the fighter archetype, so that gives you martial weapon proficiency. Stat-wise, Zuko's swords are both long swords, so be sure to keep getting feats in the fighter dedication as you level up to help you out with dual wielding. Now that we built Team Avatar, I suppose I should talk about the extremely popular free archetype rule. Basically, free archetype is a variant rule that allows you another category of feat to choose as you level, and that category being archetype feats. Every even level, when you would normally grab a class feat, you can also grab an archetype feat. Let's just run through each character and talk about which archetype I'd choose for each one. For Sokka, being that he intuitively assisted in the invention of submarines, I'd probably give him Inventor. It ups his crafting proficiency and also gives him an innovation. For inventors, an innovation can be a set of armor, a mechanical companion, or a weapon, and I'm definitely choosing weapon so that we can have Space Sword this way. It won't have any modifications like normal full class inventors have, but it will get the overdrive action, which will let you add Sokka's intelligence modifier to damage, so don't slouch on his intelligence stat when you build him. I think some good flavorful inventor feats are things like Tamper, which lets him mess with somebody else's equipment, or Brilliant Crafter. Katara, I think, gets the Medic archetype. It makes her more effective in her role as a healer, and it's really more flavorful for me. It really helps her kind of mother the rest of the team. Eventually, it allows you to treat conditions rather than just loss of hit points, and if you want to have a more granola feel of it, try the Herbalist archetype. It does a lot of the same things, but with a more natural feel. Aang gets the Monk archetype. Not only is Aang literally a monk, this also gives you access to really good mobility options like Ki Rush and Harmonized Self. Monks are all about moving around the battlefield in interesting ways, and I also think that fits Aang perfectly. Toph can truly become the blind bandit with the Gladiator archetype. As long as she has spectators, she can get more powerful. Initially, she gets temporary HP and the ability to make an impression on onlookers, and that can benefit the party later on. Any of the feats on the Gladiator list are perfect for Toph, so feel free to go crazy with them. And finally, there's Zuko. For Zuko, there's already an archetype in his build, so choosing Fighter as his freebie opens you up to boost his bending abilities instead. Under normal circumstances, you would have to sacrifice a chance to get Weapon Infusion, which allows you to summon mock fire blades that would benefit from your fighter abilities. And those are the builds. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.